Hi. In this lesson, we're going to cover probably my favorite triad substitution. In lesson 3 and in lesson 2, we introduced you to triads and triad inversions and such, and now in lesson 4 and in lesson 5, we're talking about triad substitutions. And these substitutions are really what take your chord triads from sounding very basic to sounding sophisticated. These are important lessons, and so today we're going to be talking about, rather in this lesson we're going to be talking about the triad substitutions using major sevenths in both major chords and minor chords. Okay, so let us move this whole concept of substitutions even further. The final substitution that I'm going to teach you is what is called a major seventh. Now, there are two kind of sevenths in musical notation. There is a major seventh, and then there's a major seventh and a dominant seventh. If you see notes in your music written, let's say for the chord of C, if you see C, then in small caps MAJ 7, that is C major 7. If you see the chord C, capital C, with the number 7 written next to it, that is C dominant 7th. And let me show you the difference. The dominant 7th is you take the top note and you take it a whole tone lower. The major seventh is you take the top note and you take it a semitone lower. So the substitution that I'm going to be showing you in this lesson is the major seventh. Okay? Let's get it right. The substitution I'm going to be showing you in this lesson is the major seventh, where you take the top note and take it down by a semitone. So this substitution in particular needs to be used in the same way that you use spices when you cook. If you use too much of it, it sounds too much, but it works really well if you're trying to go for a jazzier sound to the chords that you're playing. So I'm going to build it for you, and I have a twist on the major seventh concept. So let's start with a C triad. Always remember, every time you're working on your chords, make sure you're holding the octave with your left hand. A C triad, I like that inversion. Now, let's take the 1 away and put it down there. That makes a major seventh. And then I add one more thing on it. I add the 2 in there. So that's a huge distance away again from that triad. Drop the 1 down by a semitone and then add the 2 in. That's the original. That's the substitution. Original, substitution. Now I have to caution you, this substitution can only be used on the 1 and 4 chords. Only. On the 1 and 4 chords. In the minors, it can only be used on the 6 and the 2. Did you hear that? It can only be used on the 6 and on the 2. So major seventh substitutions, again, can only be used on the 1 and the 4, the 6 and the 2. Cannot be used on the 5 and 3. Because if you use it on the 5 and the 3, you will hit accidental notes for the scale. And we do not want to hit accidental notes because modern worship music does not make much room for accidental notes. So, that's my C major substitution. So how about F? Let's do it quick. F. Drop that down, put the 2 in. Yes, you are seeing it right. I'm using all 5 fingers on my hand to play this substitution. Now remember what we talked about in the previous lesson about the relationship between chords and their relative minors. Every chord can be played as a substitution for its relative minor, and every substitution on the chord, on the major chord, can be played as a substitution on the relative minor. So A, that's A minor. You can play C, you can play C2, and you can even play C major 7. So there's 2 ways of doing it. And the first one is this, that I've already shown you. And the second one is even more dense. Instead of putting the 2, I sandwich these 2 notes together. Again, this kind of playing drives classical aficionados nuts, but it sounds really awesome. If you play a chord like that, I promise you someone is going to walk up to you and ask you if you play jazz music. So how about on the 4? F, rather on the 2 minor. So start with D minor, go to F, F2, F major 7. Make it even more dense, move the 2 to the 1. A minor 7, D. So this actually isn't A minor 7 anymore. This is a far cry from it. Now what I have to tell you about all these substitutions is that I have since stopped playing the straight up chord. You will rarely ever see me showing you a chord like that. If I see on the chord chart the chord of C, I automatically play a substitution over it. If I see on the chord chart A minor, I do not play A minor. I play a substitution over it. So a very popular song that's been around for some time, that is nowhere near to fading, is a song called How Great Is Our God. And How Great Is Our God has 4 really simple chords. C, A minor 7, F. Actually, those are 3 chords in the verses. And it's typically the kind of song that works well for something like this. The splendor of the King, clothed in majesty, let all the earth rejoice. You see, I'm using only substitutions. Splendor of the King, C, A minor 7, clothed in majesty. I use substitutions on the minors as well. Let all the earth rejoice on the 4. Let all the earth rejoice. He wraps himself in light, when darkness tries to hide, and trembles at his voice. So this is a really cool exercise for you to try out with every piece of music that you have. Instead of playing the chord that you see in front of you, play a substitution over it. I promise you it will make your keyboard playing that much more effective alongside guitars, because the guitarists rarely play chord substitutions. If they see a G, they usually play a straight up G. If they see an A, they usually play a straight up A. Very few guitarists play substitutions. And so that is a way for you to stake out your space as a keyboardist in this new worship sound that we're encountering. So in this lesson, I'm not going to break it down for you in the key of G or D or A. By this time, you've probably figured out I like you to go and do the homework yourself. And so work on it for the key of D. You have D, G, and A. So what is the major seventh for D? Actually, I probably should show you that. What's the major seventh for G? In the key of G, you use it on the 1 and the 4. And on the 4, use it on the minor 7th, use it on the minor 2, rather not minor 7th, our relative minor, the number 6 minor, and the number 2 minor. The key of D, D major 7, and on the 4, G major 7. And did you see what I just did there? I just inverted it. So I'm literally taking all the concepts that we've talked about, inversions and substitutions and scales. And this is the reason why you need to know your scales, because you need to understand where you are positionally on the instrument. So and then on the 6 and on the 2. That's for the key of D. 6, 2. So there you go. Have some fun with this, and we'll see you again in lesson 7. In lesson 7, we're going to, rather in lesson 6, we're going to talk about what do you do with your left hand, and we're going to talk about a basic rhythm and how it works in a song. Okay, we'll see you soon.